It's Kari and Allison here at the Racine Heritage Museum, and today we're talking to you about the Old Settlers Society, which is what the museum used to be. So in March 1870, the Old Settlers Society was established in the Racine courthouse, and it was made up of people that recognized the need to preserve the story of this amazing county. And so they decided to establish this organization. And basically the rules were pretty simple. Anybody could join as long as they were of good moral character, which I'm not sure how they decided that. They had to be a Wisconsin resident for 30 years, which if you do the math, 1870 minus 30 years would have been 1840. So it was literally people that had just shown up. Wisconsin wasn't even a state until 1848, and Racine was not recognized as a city until 1848. So it was definitely an old settler society. They had to currently live in Racine County. Men had to pay dues of 50 cents. Women got to be in for free. So that's pretty cool. And so they had their first meeting at City Hall, and I would have loved to have been at that meeting because Gilbert Knapp spoke about what it was like to first see this area and dream about creating a community here. And I mean, I guess we don't know everything that he said, but we have an idea of what he spoke about at that meeting. And so from there, they held annual reunions, they had meetings. They typically had their reunion in June, and they called that the Old Settlers Picnic. And they had that out at the Settlers Park, which by the 1920s, the membership was starting to decline because obviously a lot of these people had passed away. And so they were trying to generate some funds by leasing that land back to the Park and Agriculture Society. And so that was how they kind of kept things going for a little while during the 1920s. Allison's going to tell you what happened after that.
So in the 1930s, the county started creating a historical society. It started off just as this historical room in the county courthouse, and then they hired a Mr. Leach to oversee that room and be its caretaker. They paid him $600 a year, which in today's money would have been $11,000 a year, which is still pretty low of a salary. After that, the Old Settlers Society in 1935 deeded the Old Settlers Park to Racine County. So that became a county park, and the county fair is held there. And then in 1940, the Historical Society was officially drafted into existence. It became an official organization of the county. And it was largely supported by what remained of the members of the Old Settlers Society. A lot of them contributed to the Historical Society or worked for it. So that kind of blending of going from the Old Settlers became into the Historical Society. After that, additionally, I should mention the collection that the Old Settlers had been collecting and preserving became part of the historical collection at the Racine County Historical Society. So after that, we kind of go through this period of development of a historical society alongside the development of a historical museum within the county courthouse. And as that through the next 20 or so years, as those two organizations kind of developed, they began to diverge. I think this is largely due to the kind of collections that they were collecting, as well as the overall goals and interpretations of their collections and their organizations. So then in 1960, the Racine Historical Museum became incorporated as its own separate entity. After that, many of you might know that the building that we are currently in used to be the public library until they built a separate facility, and then the Historical Museum and the Historical Society moved from the courthouse to 701 Main, where we currently still live today. After another 20 or so years, the Historical Society and the Historical Museum became one entity again, becoming the Historical Society and Museum Incorporated in 1983. And that is what we are today. We are the Historical Society and Museum Incorporated, also known as the Racine Heritage Museum. So that's pretty exciting. We've got a 150-year history behind us that we would have celebrated this year had 2020 not been the way 2020 is, unfortunately. But I've got some really cool stuff to show you from our archive on the Old Settler Society. So here we have a deed, or not a deed, a stock certificate from the Old Settler Society. So they would sell this to their members to generate revenue for the society. So this particular stock certificate is from 1904. And I believe if you've been following the museum, you'll know that we currently have an exhibit on press seals, corporate press seals, downstairs in one of our exhibits. And if you look in the corner here, and we'll take pictures and you can see this more in detail, but if you look in the corner here, that is the corporate seal of the Old Settlers Society, which I think is super cool.
That is super cool. I love that.
And then here we have a program for the annual meeting of the Old Settlers Society. So this one is from 1886. And it gives you all of the, sort of activities and stuff that they had going on at the park. The park is the word I'm looking for. They had music, they had, looks like they had food, they had dinner. So it's very, very cool to have this, to see what kind of things that they would do at these picnics. Speaking of the picnic, this here is an advertisement for the picnic from 1933. Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
So again, this would have been posted around town and in the newspapers. And they had, you can see here, they had baseball games, men and women's baseball games, and then refreshment stands, barnyard golf games. I don't know what barnyard golf games are, but I'm sure I'm probably going to learn soon. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then last but not least, Kari told you about how about how the Old Settler Society deeded the park over to the Racine County Park System. This here is an original proposal drafted in 1934 that I believe was presented to the members of the officers of the society before being presented to the county. And it says here there's 2 stipulations for deeding over this piece of land to the county. And one of them is that the old settlers can continue to hold their meetings and their picnics on the land, which is fair. And then the other stipulation is that there is absolutely no intoxicating liquors allowed to be sold or imbibed on the land, which in today's world would not fly, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really super cool to check out.
I had a feeling that would be the other thing that they would say, the whole good moral character thing.
Right,
so.
which is interesting because that's actually a couple of years after the end of Prohibition.
Right.
So
right.
they still had that Prohibition mentality,
Yeah.
Even in 1934 and 35. So
Very
yeah.
cool.
So.
Well, we hope that you learned a lot today. We learned a lot. We always learn a lot here, and we're super excited about our anniversary. So we hope that you like and share this video, and keep up with us. We have more awesome things coming up very soon.
Yep.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.